For bladder leaks, the super absorbent core turns liquid to gel. I know I'm wearing it, but no one else will. Always discreet for bladder leaks.
We're just 13 days away from the election, and have the WikiLeaks revelations taken a toll on the national polls? We're about to find out next. We have a new Fox national poll about to be released at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Making Money with Charles Payne. He's next.
Good evening, I'm Charles Payne. Breaking news for you right now. Fox News poll just released at this moment shows Hillary Clinton leading Donald Trump nationally by 3 points in a four-way race, with Clinton at 44%, Trump at 41%, Libertarian Gary Johnson holding at 7%, while Jill Stein bringing in 3%. Remember, Clinton's lead over Trump just outside of the margin of error, 2.5%. And I want you to take a look at the three most recent Fox News polls. Trump has improved his support by 3% compared to the same poll just 2 weeks ago, where he was at just 38%. In a two-way matchup, Clinton does lead Donald Trump by 5 percentage points, 49 to 44%. But among independent voters, Trump leads Clinton by 13 points. Trump's at 41% up, and Clinton is at 28% down from the last time. Gary Johnson coming in with a hefty 14%, and Jill Stein holding an also hefty 7%. Now, the sample for the poll consists of 44% Democrats, 37% Republicans, and 17% independents. Now, the brand new Fox News polls show that Donald Trump is putting a dent in Hillary Clinton's lead nationally, but it's the intense battle for the swing states, particularly Florida, a must-win state for Donald Trump, where both candidates have held multiple rallies this week. That's where we're going to focus. I want to bring in right now Tammy Bruce, Michael Tobman, Jay Chabria, and Ford O'Connell. Let me start with you because you made the point the last time we talked about this, Tammy, the independents soaring right now for Donald Trump. You pointed this out the last time we had this discussion.
Yeah, this is almost a doubling of the independent support. And so this is where you can see where things are kind of coalescing, because those are individuals who could go either way. And it's not just a few points up, but an almost double dynamic there. Now, the poll and the numbers that you've said with the methodology of who's been included, it's still plus Democrat, but also low independents. It's interesting. Many more independents voted in 2012 than 17%. I think it was more like 29%. It was a huge number. So this number of independents, the fact that they're coalescing and moving to Donald Trump, is his key. It's been the key from the beginning. Also, the enthusiasm gap is there. 68% of his voters are extremely very enthused. 61% of her voters are. So you're starting to see that gap increase as well. So that's going to be a reflection, I think, of the overall voter base. So this is very good news for Mr. Trump. We're seeing at the states as well, the swing states, at the national level. So you see the trend here. That's important.
That's what I'm going to bring up to you, Michael. This poll and a lot of other polls corroborating the notion that Donald Trump has regained momentum. Now, we know everyone's racing against the clock. You can also question how these polls are composed. I look at all of them, and they all have different varying degrees. For instance, the Bloomberg poll actually has 1% more Republican voters than they had in the last election, and 1% less Democrats. So some may say it's a wash. But the point is, whether it's Florida, New Hampshire, Ohio, Donald Trump has a wind in his sails.
They're running very, very, very different campaigns. The only thing they have in common is that they're running.
Trying to run out the clock, and is that a mistake?
Absolutely. She is trying to run out the clock and run up the numbers in urban areas in these swing states like Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and other areas. But Trump has been consistent throughout the Republican primaries and up until this point, which is a narrative-based campaign, not an organizing door-to-door campaign, because I suspect, and the polls are showing us, and a lot of people who support him probably aren't those that are being called for these polls. So I think we're really not going to know until election day.
Are you concerned that if the vote was today, do you think Donald Trump would win this?
Hillary Clinton is my candidate, and I expect she's going to be the next president, but I believe it will be a lot closer than people think.
Jay, you're in Ohio. At least you represented a case. You represent a case that can pass. That's a state again where Donald Trump seems to have a tremendous amount of wind in his sails. How do you see this playing out?
Well, in Ohio's always going to be close. The advantage that Donald Trump has here in Ohio is there is a very high number of white working class males, and there's not a lot of Hispanics. So he's going to compete in the state. The question is going to be the turnout. GOTV efforts, that means get out the vote efforts here in the last part of the state, last part of the election, are going to be major parts of this campaign. That's probably going to be worth 2 or 3 points for Hillary, so that's what I would watch out for, because she's got a tremendous operation. He does not have that much of a ground game outside of the terrific efforts of the Ohio Republican Party. He just hasn't done it, and that's going to be a problem for him in this state.
You know, Ford, a lot of the experts are pointing out the get out the vote effort in the machine, the well-oiled machine of the Clinton campaign, but many folks are saying the game has been changed. The rule books, or at least the script, has been changed, particularly with the enthusiasm, which, let's face it, it's impossible to quantify with old school polling techniques. Do you think that will be enough for a state like Florida, Ohio, which is obviously Florida, the one that they're both fighting neck and neck for? Barack Obama is coming back on Friday. I mean, it's obvious that that's another key.
Well, as the political philosopher Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over, and things are really moving in Donald Trump's favor. The great thing he does have, as Tammy pointed out, is he's +7 on enthusiasm. He has to win Florida and Ohio and North Carolina and possibly even Pennsylvania, and this is going to come down solely to turnout. He's currently leading in Florida in the early balloting, but it's going to come down to turnout of independents and the GOP faithful. The only thing that worries me about these numbers for Donald Trump is right now only 81% of the GOP faithful have consolidated behind him. I hope that number gets close to 90, because if it does, he'll be the 45th president of the United States.
How will that work, Tammy? Just because we saw in a poll here where 65% of Republican voters now say this is his party versus a Paul Ryan. So there's no doubt about that. We're also seeing some of the never guys fall into place, and some of the fence sitters are starting to say, okay, listen, you know, they're sounding a different tune.
Well, because I think early on that you can have the luxury of talking about theory and the importance of the party, but as we get closer and also all these WikiLeaks dynamics come out about Hillary, people are realizing that there are real-life consequences to the vote, and that it comes down to your family and about war and about the economy, about the Obamacare and the premiums, that this is not theory anymore, that this is about what is going to make the difference for your family and your children in the next generation. And I'll also predict that for the undecideds, and that's still a high number, those will break for Mr. Trump as they go to vote or when they get that mail-in ballot, because they begin to think about the reality of the choice in the moment, of the chance for the next 4 years, separate from a party theory.
So, Tammy, real quick, on that note, the tone that Donald Trump had today,
yes,
whether it was at the hotel groundbreaking or later in North Carolina, was a lot more subdued.
Sure.
Is that a play for those undecideds? Because in the Fox poll, again, and we've seen this, when it comes to temperament, he's still low down there. Does that address that aching issue for some undecideds?
Look, I don't think Mr. Trump strategizes on a day-to-day basis about how he should be.
But someone in his camp does.
Well, yes, they do. And I think that his strength is that he's himself. I think today he's understanding, and as he has been, what's at stake. But I also believe that he is completely, really committed to these issues. He loves the country, and what he said today in North Carolina is, I have had success all my life. I now want to give it back. And this is where, even if you don't like him necessarily, this is where he's so genuine versus Hillary Clinton, where you just don't get a sense of that he likes us, that's the least we should expect, and that he really wants to make a difference. And I think that that's what people are responding to.
Are you concerned about that, Michael? Again, it feels like if Hillary does win this thing, it won't be because of her enthusiasm or even her message per se, but largely because of the surrogates around her. I already mentioned that Barack Obama will be campaigning again this week in Florida, and the surrogates all over these swing states. Is there something that she can do or that she will try to do other than run out the clock?
As Tammy said, elections are about choices, and that's the choice that people are going to be making. And you know what they say, the person that graduates last in their class at medical school is still called a doctor. So however you get over the finish line, they still commander-in-chief. But I would add that the issue right now in the campaign for Election Day is not as much D versus R as it is an internal conversation within the Republican Party, because the numbers we're seeing need to be higher.
We're going to talk about that's
Trump
a separate issue, though, Ford. I want to talk about November 8th and who's going to be ultimately be elected to the White House. You know, I'm watching this thing the way I'm watching basketball games or this season football games. It's down to the 2-minute warning.
Well, it is absolutely down to the 2-minute warning. And to your point about sort of Trump's subdued message, the thing for Trump is by a 59-28 margin, this poll, what you find out is as soon as Donald Trump talks about issues like the economy where he's +4 or what's going on with Obamacare, it is amazing. His numbers go straight up. When he's talking about the debates or talking about things that are not to deal with the issues that face everyday Americans, that's when Hillary Clinton is able to grab the lead. That's when Hillary Clinton's able to make this about a character test. Voters care about issues, and if Trump sticks to the issues, this is going to be really tight.
Let me also just add quickly, Hillary, with all this, even with the support of Barack Obama, has not been able to break into 50. She can't break away from Donald Trump. That's why I contend that the undecideds will break for Donald Trump at this election.
Jay, I want to go to you finally on this. I mean, obviously, you're sitting in a catbird seat in Ohio, but from your experience being involved in these sort of things, how do you see the last second stretch, and particularly with Hillary Clinton, almost reverting back to a strategy that in the summer saw her lead completely collapse?
Well, she is playing a prevent defense. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But if I were the Trump campaign, there's another number in your poll that I would be concerned about, and that's Hillary's only at -8 in favorability. That means, and over the summer, she was in minus double digits. That means that voters are now giving her a chance, and that's where I disagree with Tammy, where the independents might break for Donald Trump. I think they're going to be breaking for Hillary Clinton because of that, and that's going to be another issue here.
All right, guys. Well, that's what makes this so interesting. Everything's on the line, and everything is up in the air still. We appreciate it. Next, new evidence suggests that the mainstream media, not just biased, but this time, for them, it might be personal. We have it all for you right after this.
Some of the rarest, most beautiful, and most sought-after gold coins in history